Today was the first day of the base cycle in the Smallville program. Now, before this, I did a 2-week phase-in program, or a cycle where I was just getting back into the squat movement, getting used to the weight and making sure that I was understanding the squat movement before actually getting into this intensive program, right? Now, the main goal of the program is for pure peak strength of the squat. Now, a lot of people have said this program was not necessarily a part of a longevity in terms of your squat strength. Now, obviously, your squat strength is naturally going to increase with this program simply because you're going to build mass, you're going to better efficiently pick up the weight and squat it. So you're able to get that stronger neurological connection with the squat. But the reason why it's considered a peak and actually you're going to kind of expect regression later on is because this is very intensive. There's 4 days of squatting per week. And if you don't know, 4 days of squatting, leg day, is really taxing on the lower body. And while talking about this, although it may be taxing on your quads, your calves, your hamstrings, your glutes, all those muscles, well, we may be neglecting the actual stress that's applied on the tendons, the ligaments, the bones, and the joints. Now, these were actually one of my biggest concerns going into this program, mainly because I have a tendency to start develop a sort of a lower back pump as I go through the squat, as I continue to squat, right? And that was just one of my fears and worries about going into the squat. Now, in terms of my knee health, my knees are completely fine. They don't really pop at all, and they feel really good while I squat. But it was just my lower back that I was a bit worried about. Now, considering that, I came into this session feeling a bit of discomfort in my lower back. And while I was squatting, surprisingly, my warm-up felt really light. And as I was able to brace, there was a lot less pressure on my back as I was squatting downwards. And so although I thought my bracing was improving, I think the biggest thing I can attribute to my less pain experience is by leaning a bit more forward. So increasing the dorsiflexion of my ankle and my calf, right? Now, the reason why this actually helped me was because it allowed me to keep the weight balanced on the midline of my foot. So therefore, my bar path was directly vertical and perpendicular to the ground, right? Now, the reason why this was helpful was because I was able to maintain that neutral back without being too vertical and without, putting my weight on my heels and kind of encouraging lumbar rounding, so the rounding of your lumbar region, which is something that you don't really want to do. Now, this might also be considered butt winking when you go all the way down to the arse to grass position. And here is where you're starting to put excessive load on your lumbar spine. And also, you're actually moving your spine while loading your weight, which leads to much greater risks of injury, right? Now, here was a 100 kilo squat, right? I went in for a pause squat and I felt really good. And while I was doing this, I made a conscious awareness to go down slow and to lean forward, keeping my knees over my toes. Now, there's a myth going on, or it's been in history, right? Saying that you should not have your knees go over your toes. It's dangerous for your knee joints and you'll probably screw you up, right? Well, nowadays, I feel like there's been a lot of advocacy for knees over toes, right? So the actual mobility and the flexibility, right? And yeah, so there's this very common YouTuber called Knees Over Toes. He's very popular, and he actually talks about the benefits of doing so. Well, I might not actually have the scientific backing up of why it's actually why knees over toes is beneficial. The most I can probably produce or say as an explanation is because your tendons and ligaments actually have very poor blood supply, so near the point of avascularity, right? And because of that, you're actually not able to strengthen and toughen them up as fast or recover them as quickly as muscles, because muscles have constant blood supply. So therefore, they're able to provide, their fuel source, oxygen. They're able to bring in the cells for repairing for mitosis, and they're able to remove excess waste, right? But the knees and the ligaments have a very hard time doing so. That doesn't necessarily mean that they won't strengthen over time. If they don't, I mean, everyone that actually lives, they're probably going to die from all that weight that's bearing on the spine, right? Now, going on to that, so once I started putting my knees over my toes, it felt like I was putting a lot of emphasis on my quads. And that was one of the biggest, I guess, recruitment of my muscle that I haven't realized yet. So whenever I squat, I hardly feel it in my quads. I almost always feel it around, I guess, my glutes, my hams, like my hip flexors, and just like a bit in the quads. Not like as if it was my prime mover of the squat, right? But by actually leaning a bit more forward, I felt it really hard in my quads, right? And it kind of removed the discomfort and pain that I started to feel in my adductors. Now, I had a pretty ongoing problem with my adductors, so there was a lot of discomfort and irritation in those areas. But by just switching it up, keeping my hips a bit more enclosed and knees a bit more forward, I just completely eliminated that pain, which was actually a very good thing, right? Now, so going on to like the pain that people feel in the knees or those joints, just for people that are wary about exercises that require you to have your knees over your toes, what I think occurs is, tendonitis, right, is the irritation or inflammation of the tendon. And the reason why the reason why joints feel the most pain is because they require the most movement, right? It's the very contraction of the muscles that move the angles of the bones together, right? The specific joints. And what is that anchoring point from the muscle to the bone? Well, that's your ligament. And if you think about it, you wouldn't expect the very strong and thick muscles with like all these synergies of muscle fibers to feel all that much pain. They won't undergo too much injuries, right? I mean, like, I guess they will, but not as much as the anchoring point. The anchoring point is the fundamental of that muscle, and therefore is most prone to the injuries. And that's why I think the pain mainly occurs at those tendons. So therefore, in order to improve the strength of those and conditioning the joints, you need to work on emphasizing your joint healthiness and I guess the flexibility and mobility of those areas. And today's session was a big awakening for that, and I started to realize I've been kind of neglecting this stuff. So today was another learning experience. Well, I'll see you guys next time.